Hello, everybody. I hope everybody's having a good Thanksgiving break. I know today is, or when I'm uploading it, it is Monday, so we still have a whole week off. Um, I'm just gonna upload or record real quickly Thursdays and Fridays lessons, and as promised, I'm gonna do both the lesson and the worksheet. So like the worksheet answers. So the video is probably gonna end up being a little bit longer, probably around 40 minutes, I want to say, but for those who do watch the videos, at least they'll have the answers to the worksheets and understand every step. So we'll get started on solving rational equations day 2. So let me just share my screen real quick. All right, so for solving rational equations day 2, the first thing that we went over is the excluded values. So you will get questions like this on a test where it asks you to give me the excluded values. Remember, excluded values are just values of x that make the denominator equal to 0. So what you do is just make the denominator set it equal to 0. So over here, what's my first denominator? It's going to be 3x. So you make that 3x equal to 0. So you have 3x is equal to 0. Now, what's my second denominator? My second denominator is x plus 2. So make x plus 2 equal 0. And now over here, just solve for x. So first step we're going to do on the left, since you have 3 times x, the only way to get rid of the 3 is to divide by 3. So divide by 3 on both sides. So you'll have the 3's cancel, and you'll have 0 divided by 3, which is just 0. Now over here, solve for x again. How do you get rid of the positive 2 or the plus 2? You minus 2 on both sides. So the 2's cancel on the left. The x is going to drop. And with 0 minus 2, negative 2. And then your excluded values are the 0 and the negative 2. So x cannot be 0 and x cannot be negative 2. And again, the reason why I put this line in between is because we don't want the denominator to equal to 0. And when we solved for x, it gave us 0. So here, for example, x equals 0. 3 times 0 would give us 0. And we don't want there to be a 0 on the bottom. So again, your excluded values is just whatever makes the denominator equal to 0. Now, next step is just you're gonna solve for x. And then remember, there's 2 different ways you could solve for x. Either find your LCD and multiply both sides by everything by your LCD, or cross multiply. And I know in here you guys like to cross multiply, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna circle my diagonals. Now, what do I have circled in the green? In the green, you have 4 and the 3x. So I'm gonna write 4 and 3x. And in the blue, I circled 9 and x plus 2. So I'll put 9 and x plus 2. Now, what's my symbol in between? It's an equals. So I'm going to keep an equal in between. And now just distribute. So what's 4 times 3x? It's just going to be 12x. On the right side, 9 times x, 9x. 9 times positive 2 is 18. Symbol in between is an equal sign. So keep it an equal. And now we want to get all our x's to one side and then leave the number on the left side. So which x is bigger, the 9x or the 12x? The 12x is bigger, so we're going to move this 9x to the left side. So how do I get rid of a positive 9x? You subtract it on both sides, so minus 9x. So these 9x's are going to cancel. 18 is going to drop down. 12x minus 9x is just going to be 3x. And equal is going to stay in equal. So now, how do we get rid of this 3? You divide by 3 on both sides. So the 3's are going to cancel. 18 divided by 3 is just 6. And so your answer is going to be x equals 6. And I'll just make sure to check that this answer isn't part of your excluded values. So our excluded values are 0 and negative 2, which 6 is not 1. So this is your answer, and you're done. So that's all we are doing on what we did on Thursday for day 2, solving rational equations. So I'm just gonna move on to the second problem now that we did. So again, start by finding your excluded value. Excluded value is what makes the denominator equal to 0. So over here, what's on the bottom of the first fraction? What's your denominator of the first fraction? X plus 5. So make x plus 5 equal to 0. What's the denominator of my second fraction? X plus 2. So make x plus 2 equal to 0. And I'll just solve for x. So how do I get rid of this plus 5? You minus 5 on both sides. So you get 5's cancel. The x will drop down. X is equal to what's 0 minus 5? Negative 5. Now, over here, how do you get rid of this plus 2? You add, subtract 2 for both sides. So 2's are going to cancel. X is going to drop. What's 0 minus 2? That's just going to be negative 2. But let me just let it clear. Yep. Negative 2. So x cannot be negative 5. And x cannot be negative 2. All right. And now we're just going to proceed to cross multiply because I know that what you guys chose to do, what method you guys preferred over the LCD. So just circle your diagonals. Again, circle your diagonals. And now what do I have circled in my green circle? It's x and x plus 5. So write that down, x and x plus 5. And what do I have circled in my blue circle? It's x minus 3 and x plus 2. So write that down. That should be x minus 3 and x plus 2. Your symbol in between. It's an equal, so keep it an equal. Now just distribute. So what's x times x? That's x squared. What's x times positive 5? 5x. The equal stays. What's x times x? X squared. What's x times 2? 2x. It's negative 3 times x. Negative 3x. And negative 3 times positive 2 is negative 6. So over here on this right side, we have these 2x and the negative 3x that we're going to have to combine. So what's 2x minus 3x? That's just going to be negative 1x or negative x. And now I'm just going to rewrite this again, so but with this term instead of these two. So on the left, it stays as x squared plus 5x. And that equals x squared minus x minus 6. All right, and now we're going to solve for x. So we want all our x's on one side and all our numbers on the right side. So over here, how do I get rid of this x squared? You subtract it. So minus x squared. So these x squares are going to cancel. 5x is going to drop. And equal to the x squares again cancel. The negative x and the negative 6 drop. So now how do I get rid of this negative x? You add x on both sides. So what's 5x plus x? That's just 6x. The negative 6 drops. Now, how do you get rid of the 6 on the left? You divide by 6 on both sides. So you're left with x is equal to, what's negative 6 divided by 6? Negative 1. And now just make sure x negative 1 isn't one of your excluded values, which it isn't. So that is your answer, and you're done. So the first two problems that we did were relatively easy, I would say. I would say questions number 3 and 4 is where it gets a little bit more difficult. All right, so I'm gonna move on to number 3. So for number 3, we're always going to be nice on the type of problems that we give you, and I believe on the test as well. So just a heads up, all you really are going to have to do, usually you would have to factor this out, but just know that when you factor this out, it's going to give you x minus 2 and x minus 6. So you don't have to worry about that. So all we're going to do is just start the same way, is find our excluding values. So over here, your first denominator is x minus 6. So make x minus 6 equals 0. Second denominator is x minus 2. So make x minus 2 equals 0. And then just solve for x. So how do you get rid of this negative 6? You add 6 on both sides. So the 6 cancel, x drops, and what's 0 plus 6? 6. Now we're gonna do the same thing. How to get rid of this -2? You add 2 on both sides. So the 2's cancel, the x drops, and what's 0 plus 2? It's just gonna be 2. So x cannot equal 6, and x cannot equal 2. All right, and now remember, for cross multiplying, you could do this. You could do this again on these problems, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So for these ones, remember when we do cross multiply, the way we do it is like this. We only circle on the left our diagonals. So on the left, you circle your diagonals just on the left. And then we just write it out. So what's in my blue circle? It's 1 and x minus 2. So you have 1 x minus 2. And in the green circle, it's x and x minus 6. Now, what's your symbol in between? It's a plus. And usually, we would just make this equal to 4. And then you guys were confused on why did we just make it equal to 4? Well, the reason why is because this. So when we cross multiply, you make this big thing over your bottom denominator. So on the bottom, you have x minus 6 and x minus 2. And that's going to equal to the right side of the fraction, which is 4 over x squared minus 8x plus 12. And now the bottom are the same, because if you factor this out and do your a, b, c, you'll get x minus 6 and x minus 2. So since the bottoms are equal to each other, the tops are going to be equal to each other. So the bottom is just going to disappear, and you'll be left with the top, which is again 1 x minus 2 plus x and x minus 6. And that's going to equal to your top number, which is 4. All right, and now we're just going to distribute. So 1 times x is just x. 1 times -2 is just -2. Positive x times positive x is just x squared. Positive x squared, I mean. Then positive x times -6 is just -6x. And that's going to equal to your 4. All right. Now, you want to rearrange it so your x squared is first, and then your x's, and then your numbers. And just rearrange the left side first. So here, we have an x squared, so let's put that first. So you'll have x squared. And now you have a positive 1x and a positive -6x. So what's positive x minus 6x? That's just going to be -5x. And then you have that -2, and that's going to be equal to 4. And now usually we want to get all our x's to one side and all our numbers on the right side. But over here we have an x and an x squared. Whenever you have an x and an x squared, you want to move everything to the left, the same side that the positive x squared is on. So how do I get rid of this positive 4? You subtract 4. So you'll be left with x squared and then -5x dropping. What's -2 minus 4? That's just -6. And that's going to equal to 4 minus 4 is just 0. All right, and now we're just going to do our favorite thing, which is factoring. So we'll A, B, C. So A is just going to be your number next to x squared, which is just 1. B is the number next to your x, which is -5. And then your C is your constant, which is -6. So on the top of your diamond, you put A times C. So what's -6 times 1? That's just -6. And on the bottom, you put your B, which is -5. Now, what are two numbers that multiply to -6 but added to -5? -6 and +1. So we'll just rewrite our original polynomial or quadratic by replacing the middle term with your -6 and 1. So you'll have x squared minus 6x plus x minus 6. And now you just do your grouping. So how many x's are in x squared? There's 2. And then negative 6x, I mean, is just 6 times x. And then your x is just x, and your 6 is just 6. And now we're going to circle what they have in common. So over here, the first two have an x in common. So I'm going to write that over here. And now what we didn't use on the top was an x. What we didn't use on the bottom was a 6. Your symbol in between is a minus. Now the last two have nothing in common, so we always put a 1. We didn't use an x and a 6, so x 6. Symbol in between is a minus. And now again, what they both have in common is x minus 6, so write that down. And with our leftovers, x plus 1. And since we're solving for x, we're going to make this equal to 0 and solve. So remember, it's just going to be the opposite. So what's the opposite of negative 6? That's positive 6, so x is equal to 6. And the opposite of positive 1 is negative 1, so x is equal to negative 1. But again, we have to check, make sure 6 and negative 1 is not our excluded values. 6 is one of our excluded values, so we're going to go back down and cancel that one. And our answer is just going to be x equals negative 1. And we're done. So these problems do get to be kind of long, and you'll see on the back side, they can get a little bit tedious and then annoying at times. So I'm gonna move on to the back side. So what we're gonna do, first things first, is find your excluded values. So make the denominators equal to 0. So over here you have x plus 3. So do x plus 3 is equal to 0. And then you have your x minus 1 and make it equal to 0. So how do you get rid of that plus 3? You subtract 3 on both sides. So minus 3. So your x would drop down, and 0 minus 3 is just negative 3. Now, do the same thing. How do we get rid of the negative 1? You add 1 on both sides. So plus 1, 0 plus 1 is 1. And the x is going to drop down, so x is going to equal to 1. So x cannot be negative 3, and x cannot be 1. And now we're just going to do what we were doing earlier, and then just do our cross multiply. So I'm going to circle my diagonals. So what do I have circled in my blue circle? It's 1 and x plus 3, so I'll write that down. 1 and x plus 3. What do I have circled in my green circle? 2 and x minus 1. And then your symbol in between is a minus, so put that in front of the 2. And now again, usually we skip this step. I'm just going to write it so you guys don't get as confused. You just put your denominators on the bottom. So you have x plus 3 and x minus 1. And that's going to equal to this whole fraction, which is negative x squared minus 3x all over x squared plus 2x minus 3. And then again, the bottoms are they're not always going to be equal to each other, but on the problems that we give you, they are going to be equal to each other. Just not on, maybe not on the worksheet, but for sure on the exams. So over here, they're equal to each other. So we'll just make the tops equal to each other. So you can just cancel out the bottoms and you'll be left with the top. So I'm going to rewrite the top again. So you have 1 and x plus 3 minus 2 and x minus 1. And that's going to equal to negative x squared minus 3x. So on the left, you want to distribute. So what's 1 times x? It's x. What's 1 times positive 3? Positive 3. What's negative 2 times x? That's negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And that's going to equal to your right side of negative x squared minus 3x. And now we're just going to combine our like terms on the right side. So x squared minus 2x is just negative x. And then the 3, positive 3 plus positive 2 is just positive 5. And that's going to equal to negative x squared minus 3x. Now we want to move everything to the positive side. We want wherever the positive x squared is. So we don't have a positive x squared on the left. We don't have a positive x squared on the right. So we just need to make sure that there is no negative x squared. We don't have any negative x squared. So we don't have a negative x squared to the left, but we do have one on the right. So we're going to move everything to the opposite, which is the left side. So since you have a negative x squared on the right side, we're moving everything to the left side. So how do I get rid of this x squared? You add it on both sides. Everything is just going to drop down. These are going to cancel, and the negative 3x is going to drop down. Now, how do I get rid of that negative 3x? You add 3x on both sides. So the x squared is going to drop down. What's negative x plus 3x? That's plus 2x. And then the plus 5 is just going to drop down. And these are just going to cancel, so you'll be left with 0. And now you do your ABC. So your A is going to be equal to 1, B is equal to 2. Or here, let me do this in a different color. B is equal to 2, and C is equal to 5. And now you'd put it in your diamond. So two numbers, on top you put A times C, which is 5. And on the bottom you put your B, which is 2. So there's two numbers that multiply to positive 5 but add up to positive 2. There isn't any. So unfortunately, you can't do factoring through the diamond. You're going to have to factor by using your quadratic formula. And if you don't remember what your quadratic formula, it's this. X is equal to the opposite of B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So we're going to do the same thing, but replace all our ABCs with what we have. So you have X equals negative B, which is 2, plus or minus the square root B squared, which is again 2 squared, minus 4AC. So 4A is 1, C is 5. All over 2A, which is 1. And now you just solve. So x is equal to, what's negative times, a negative times is positive 2? That's just going to be a negative 2. Plus or minus the square root. What's 2 squared? 4. So you'll write down a 4. Minus, what's 4 times 1? That's just 4. 4 times 5, that is 16. Or never mind, that's 20. So you'll be put minus 20. All over on the bottom. 2 times 1 is just 2. So now you just simplify. So x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus, what's 4 minus 20? That's just going to be 16 or negative 16 all over your 2. Oh, again, you could simplify a little bit further because we don't want this negative 16 to stay as a negative 16. We want this to be positive. So this will just be negative 2 plus or minus. What's the square root of 16? That is just 4. And then how do we get rid of this negative inside? We add a I all over 2. And that right there would be our answer. And whenever you have to use the quadratic formula and you have an I in there, you don't have to worry about it being part of your excluded values. So you are done right here. And that's it for the notes. But as promised, we're gonna do the worksheet together as well. So boom, I have it right here. So for the first question, it asks you to solve for the excluded values and solve for x. So again, I'm gonna be quicker with this one. So it's your excluded values. So make the bottoms equal to 0. So x equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0, and then solve for x. So you're already done with the first one. You have to subtract 5 on both sides to get the second one. So you get x equals -5. Boom. So x cannot be 0 and x cannot be -5. And now you cross multiply. So you have 12 and x plus 5, and then x and 24. So what circle in my green circle? It's 24 and x, so 24x. And then your symbol in between is an equal, and then what circle in my blue circle? It's 12 and x plus 5, so write that down. So now just distribute. So 24 times x is just 24x. 12 times x is 12x. 12 times +5 is equal to 60. Symbol in between stays as equal. And now we want to get all x on one side, so subtract that 12x on both sides. 24x minus 12x is just 12x, and that's going to be equal to 60. So divide both sides by 12. So you'll be left with x is equal to 60 divided by 12, which is just 5. And since 5 isn't part of our excluded values, that is your answer, and you're done. So that's it for number 1. Now let's go for number 2. And again, I am going to be doing this quickly. You could always pause. These are answers to the worksheet that you should be doing anyways by yourself. So here we go. So again, you do the denominators equal to 0. So 2x plus 1 equals 0. And then 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. So over here, subtract 1, get rid of the 1 first. So -1. So you have 2x is equal to -1. And then divide both sides by 2. So you get x is equal to -1/2. And on the right side, do the same. So subtract 3 on both sides, you get 4x is equal to -3. Divide both sides by 4. So x is equal to -3/4. So x cannot be -1/2, and x cannot be -3/4. And now we're going to cross multiply. So over here, circle your diagonals. So you have 5 and 2x plus 1. And then you have 3 and 4x plus 3. And then make them equal to each other. So 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times +1 is +5. 3 times 4x is 12x. And 3 times 3 is 9. Equals. Now, subtract 10x on both sides. So you'll be left with, here, I'll put it over here. 5 is equal to 12x minus 10x is just 2x plus 9. Subtract 9. So you'll be left with -4 is equal to 2x divided by 2. So x is equal to -2, which isn't one of our excluded values, so we are done. And that is it for number 1 and 2. I'm gonna leave number 3 and 4 so you guys can do it by yourself. I'm not gonna put all the answers because I know some of y'all just won't do work. So 3 and 4 I'll leave for yourself, and then I'll do 5, 6. Yeah, I'll just do 5 and 6 and I'll leave the rest for y'all. So let's go to 5. Start by finding your denominators, your excluded values. So first one is x plus 5, make it equal to 0. Second one's x, make it equal to 0. So solve for x. This right side's already solved. And then over here, you just got to get rid of the +5. So -5 on both sides. So So 0 minus 5 is just -5. And you have an x. So x cannot be equal to -5, and x cannot equal to 0. All right, now we're going to cross multiply. So we here circle your diagonals. And I'm just going to do the shortcut that we usually do and not write what I did on the bottom. So what do I have circled in the green circle? That's 1 and x. So you do 1x. What do you have circled in the blue circle? That's 1 and x plus 5. So write 1x plus 5. With your symbol in between, it's a minus. And now you make it equal to the top part of the denominator or the numerator, which is 4x plus 16. And now we're going to solve. What's 1 times x? X. Negative, what's negative 1 times x? That's negative x. Then negative 1 times positive 5. It's just negative 5. And that's equal to 4x plus 16. And let's just, on this left side, what's x minus x? That's just going to be 0. So you're just left with negative 5 is equal to 4x plus 16. How do I get rid of this positive 16? Subtract it. So you'll be left with 4x negative 5 minus 16 is just going to be negative 21. And now divide both sides by 4. So you get x is equal to negative 21 over 4. And that's your answer because it's not part of the excluded values. And you're done. And I'll do number 6 now with y'all. All right, so again, start by writing your numerator or excluded value. So x plus 3 is equal to 0. X minus 4 is equal to 0. Solve for x, so minus 3 on both sides. 0 minus 3 is just negative 3. Add 4 on both sides. 0 plus 4 is just 4. So x cannot be negative 3, and x cannot be 4. All right, now we're going to cross multiply. So circle your diagonals. So what do I have circled in my blue circle? It's 1 and x plus 3. What do I have circled in my green circle? It's 1 and x minus 4. Symbol between is a plus, so keep it a plus. And it's going to be equal to the top number or your numerator, and that's 6. Now distribute. So here, what's 1 times x? That's just x. 1 times positive 3, 1 times x is just x, and then 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. This plus sign, keep it as plus, and that's equal to 6. Now, what's x plus x? That's 2x. What's positive 3 minus 4? That's negative 1, and that's still equal to 6. Now, we want to get all our x's on one side and all our numbers on the other side, so how to get rid of this negative 1? You add 1 on both sides. So you're left with 2x is equal to 7. Divide both sides by 2. So you get x is equal to 7 over 2. And you're done. Since it's not part of our excluded values, that is our answer. And that's it. So I'll leave the rest for you guys to do. And on what's called Friday's video, I'll do all the problems since it's only 4. So So Friday's videos will be a little bit longer, but that's it for this video. So hopefully you guys have a good Thanksgiving break, and I'll see you guys back next week. Mm, mm. And then let me just end this video.